is, guys? It's your boy Blastphamoushd, and today we are here more than likely to scare the living crap out of myself. I say that because y'all know I'm a pansy. Today we're here to check out a bunch of short, scary story horror animations. If you guys want to watch the original video, the link will be in the description down below me. And let go.
A few years back, when I still lived with my parents, I used to stay in the room right next to my younger sisters. Sometimes while I was asleep, I would be awoken by the sound of someone coming into my room. When I would open my eyes, I would see my 4-year-old sister just staring at me in silence. After realizing it's only her, I would calm myself down and lead her back to her bed. I wasn't the only family member this happened to, and in the morning my sister would never remember it happened. Most of the time we would find her by the stairs on our way to the bathroom. My parents worried about her falling down, so they put a child gate in front of the stairs. On one occasion I remember seeing her standing in front of the gate, and as I approached her, she slowly pointed down the stairs. Being slightly creeped out, I just gently led her back to her room. It wasn't until summer came and I would stay up later that I would sometimes hear her talking to herself in the early hours of the morning. I used to think it was a little funny, but on a few occasions it really sounded like a lower voice would respond. I was too much of a chicken to ever check, so I would just decide it was time for bed and try not to think about it.
Bruh, this music in the background is really freaking me out, man.
Luckily, by the time she turned 5, it seemed like she finally grew out of it, since we never found her walking around the house again. I still wonder why it always seemed like she was trying to get one of us to lead her downstairs. Eva always lied. It was obvious from the very beginning that she was a compulsive liar. She would spin some off-kilter stories when she had the chance to. It wasn't out of any malicious intent, but rather, she simply couldn't resist telling a lie. Her lies were surreal and often just too ridiculous for others to take seriously. It didn't help that she was very young, at an age where we dismiss claims as being products of imagination, only 4 years old. Because of these factors, we didn't believe a word that she said to anyone. We didn't believe her when she said that her baby sister turned into a cat at night and purred at her. We didn't believe her when she said that the science teacher was secretly an alien robot. And when she said that her best friend wanted her to come play with her underneath her bed, we once again brushed it off. We really should have taken it seriously. But by the time that we found her bed empty that one morning, it was already too late.
For some reason, when I was a kid, I legitimately thought that Michael Jackson would come from underneath my bed and get me when I was a kid. I was like 8 or 9 years old. Not gonna make the obvious joke about Michael Jackson coming from up under an 8-year-old boy's bed and getting him in the middle of the night. Not gonna make that joke.
I moved into an old farmhouse in October 2015. It had been kept current until 1989, right down to the burgundy green hearts and apple borders in the middle of the walls. The house sits on a couple of acres. The closest neighbor is a walk away. Great trees, great bushes, love it. But lately, I've noticed weird things. Like how none of the closets have doors. Or how I wake suddenly just as I'm starting to drift off to sleep. How tired I am even though I'm in bed by 9 p.m. and can barely get out of bed at 7 a.m. The other really strange thing I've noticed is both my cats have disappeared, and none of the coyotes I hear at night come near the house, even though I've left the garbage bag outside accidentally. But the biggest thing I've noticed lately is how the hatch to my attic seems to always be open, though it used to be nailed shut.
Bro, that's like the worst type of scary story, is the ones that make you think, yo.
My son went missing 2 weeks ago. Like a good parent, I filed a police complaint. I participated in the search efforts, and I was heartbroken when they could not find any trace of him. I gave up. I asked the cops to give up too. It was hopeless, I said. They did not give up. 1 week ago, 2 of the officers turned up at my door, triumphant smiles on their faces, and standing in front of them was my son. They said they found him wandering in the woods beyond the edge of town. He looked much worse for wear, but otherwise unscathed. They left him with me and went back to the station. He is not my son. He looked like my son, spoke like my son, and even behaved like my son. He settled in with me, but please believe me, he is not my son. Every night since that day, I've woken up in the middle of the night in cold sweat. I always see him in the doorway of my room, his body silhouetted by the night light behind him. He always leaves as soon as I wake up. Please, you have to trust me. Whatever he is not my son. Why do I seem so sure? Because I killed my son 2 weeks ago and buried him in the forest.
Hey friends.
What the living hell? Oh my God. I did not see that ending coming at all, man. Oh, dude, that was...
I'm a new father, and it was my family's first real walk in the woods. My 5-year-old Jay was thrilled about the fact that we were walking off trail today with walkie-talkies, and my wife liked that they had a static-proof 3-mile range. That allowed us to take our guard down while we were picking a load of morel and chanterelle mushrooms we stumbled across. When we looked up, Jay was gone. That was our family's first genuine bolt of true panic. We frantically called out for him on the walkie-talkie with no reply, then ran in the general direction that we thought our son had wandered, before finding his sticker-plastered radio on the ground. My wife cried out until her voice turned ragged, and I had to hold her. Just as the sun began to set, we were ready to dial 911. Jay walked out of the bush as he had been standing just outside of our view the entire time. His eyes were ringed with red, but the whites of his eyes remained clear. I had assumed it was just from crying. Besides, it didn't matter, we had Jay back. I carried him in my arms all the way back to our car. Jay was already asleep when I buckled him in. Right before driving onto the main road, my wife blurted out, "Jay's radio!" We left it on the trail. I didn't want to go back as it was already dark and I just wanted to go home. 2 minutes down the road, my wife's walkie-talkie barks. It's Jay's voice, frantic, crying, asking where we were. My wife and I looked at each other before looking at Jay in the back seat. We confirmed it was Jay on the other line as we turned around and told him to stay put. My wife stayed with the child in the back seat as I went to Jay. I found him near his radio, scared but glad to see me. I didn't bother asking him if he knew the kid that was in the back of our car. I thought we would sort all this out when we got back. When we did, the kid was gone, but my wife was still in the car. When she saw the two of us, a drowsy smile spread across her face, all except for her eyes. Her red, ringed eyes.
Oh my God, that creeps me the hell out, man. Bruh, let's read, man. This is probably some of the best horror stories I've ever heard on the internet, ever.
Ever since I was young, I've looked in the mirror quite often. Maybe people probably assume it's vanity, but that's never been it. I'm a bit of a paranoid person, looking around corners, leaving lights on so I can see my surroundings, and checking under my bed just in case. I live alone now, which has made this paranoia worse. It was a Sunday, cleaning day. As I scrubbed the bathroom, I had to walk by the mirror to get a bottle of bleach for a stain that had been bothering me for a long time. I still feel shivers thinking about the moment I realized my reflection didn't match myself. She looked afraid. Taking this as a bad omen, I left the room as is, not even bothering to finish cleaning up my husband's blood. I'm the kind of coworker everyone hates. I'm the coworker that steals from the fridge. I know it's rude and selfish, but everyone else's things just taste so much better than my bag lunches. Plus, I have to admit it's pretty funny at how upset my colleagues get when they notice things missing. They'll yell, "For Christ's sakes, it was labeled," and "What kind of monster would do this?" It got to be such a huge ordeal that the office set out on a witch hunt for the culprit. The longtime janitor was fired and blamed for throwing things out. I stopped stealing for a while and things went back to normal. But I couldn't help peeking in the fridge and seeing all those treats staring me down. The temptation was too much and I grabbed a container belonging to the new girl, Tracy Myers. As I chowed down, one of my coworkers walked in on me, caught me red-handed with Tracy's Tupperware. Instead of calling me out or making a scene, he just left the room without a word. I suppose he knew that no one would believe him. I finished eating right as my pager went off, so I methodically washed my hands and straightened my tie.
He ate poison. Dang.
Before heading back into the operating room. My newest patient, Tracy, was prepped for me to perform her heart transplant. The only problem was that someone had stolen it from the fridge.
Did not see that coming at all. God, jeez. Yo. Bruh. These were scary as all living crap. Big ups to Let's Read, because I didn't know anyone was making these level of awesome creepypastas and then animating them. Who the animator is, of course, Strawberry Nightmare. The link is in the description down below if you guys want to watch the original video. It's your boy Blastphamoushd. Twisms.